to Dr. Pankaj. Sir, our participants are from the different parts of India. Few of them are industry professionals, research scholars, academicians, and we got representation from the states like, you name the state like Chennai, Orissa, Maharashtra, Pune, Gujarat. So we have representation from all parts of India. Dr. Prabhat Pankaj, he is a director and professor of Jaipuria Institute of Management, Jaipur. He is a postgraduate in economics and a PhD in applied economics. He has been teaching economics at postgraduate and undergraduate level for about 23 years in the universities and several B schools in India as well as abroad. Dr. Pankaj has received training in natural resources and environmental economies from South Asia Network Development and Environmental Economies and World Bank Institute. Also worked as an economic consultant to the Ministry of Trade and Industry, Royal Government of Bhutan on WTO issues, and he has also represented the Royal Government of Bhutan in UNESCAP meeting on post-Cancun agenda in Bangkok. Dr. Pankaj is also an IBM listed expert mentor on SPSS. Once again, from the core of our heart, sir, IBMR IPS Academy welcomes Dr. Prabhat Pankaj. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Dipti. So I have got 3 sessions to take. And as per my discussion with Dr. Sachin, we are going to talk about regression analysis, maybe simple regression, multiple regression, and then some part of dummy regression that I'm going to cover. How I'm going to do this is I'm going to use SPSS software to discuss all these topics. So first of all, I would like to know from you or maybe some of the participants, if they can speak, how familiar our participants are in SPSS. Do we have, what is the level of familiarity with SPSS for our participants? If I can get this idea.
I think we can listen directly from the horse's mouth. So I think participants can better tell us what is their familiarity with the SPSS. Dear participants, you can tell sir about the usage of SPSS.
Yes, sir, I am familiar with SPSS.
Okay.
This is
So,
actually.
Dr. Praveen is saying he's a beginner, and probably somebody has spoken that he's familiar. Okay, maybe 1 or 2 more response from the participants. Yeah, so request to the participant in my session, you need to keep your video on, because I don't want to talk to the wall. I want to talk to somebody, right? I want to talk to you instead of talking to the wall. So please open your video. That's number 1. Number 2, please respond. You have to interact with me, because this whole entire 3 sessions is going to be based on interaction. If you don't interact, because I'll keep on asking a couple of questions in between, so you have to interact with me. All right, so what I can guess is there are some more response. Let me just read it out. To some extent, beginner level, know very well. Rahul is saying he knows it very well, reasonably familiar, beginner level. So we have a mixed batch. Some of them are very good, and some of them have just started. So I presume that all of you are aware about SPSS. So beginner means, you are aware about SPSS. You may not have worked very well deeply on it, but you are aware about SPSS. So that's a good sign. It's a wonderful thing too. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to start from the, some kind of, conceptual and relate it to SPSS. And then I'll move on to regression, right? So that is going to be a better way to do because we have a mixed kind of student. And this will also give me the idea that, what is the clarity of fundamental aspects of research which our participants have, right? Because it depends on the fact that if you are very clear about the fundamentals, the concepts that on which all this kind of quantitative analysis is going to be based, then that will make my task easier, and I can take you to a slightly deeper analysis, right? So I'll just try and do my own assessment. Okay, all right. So let me share my PPT with you, because I'm going to go flip here and there. I'll use some PPT and I'll also show you the video. Show you the SPSS. So let me just. So I'm not going to go into the slide presentation mode because it has to be flipped here and there all the time. So what I'm going to begin with, I hope it is visible to all of you, right? If one of you can confirm that it's visible, my voice is clear.
Sir. Yes,
Yeah,
sir,
okay,
it is visible.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm taking a very small problem just to begin with and focus on this problem, what I'm talking about. So let's say I have taken a study, which is a study of factors affecting consumer choice of products. It's very simplistic. You may write a research paper on it. There are a lot of people who write research paper and publish it on these kind of aspects. So if this is the study I have to conduct, then this researcher has probably considered different factors for study, and these factors, let's say, include income, gender, education, occupation, and age of the respondent. So probably that's how we proceed in our research. So we have identified how many factors are going to be considered. So research is about considering a finite number of factors, not infinite number of factors. So when you and how you choose your factors will depend upon the literature survey you do and your own understanding of the subject and things like that. So herein, in this study, the researcher thought that probably income, gender, education, occupation, and age are going to be critical factor, which can also be converted into later important variable for study. You also need to have a research question. So this researcher has decided a research question. And the research question is, he's trying to explore is there a significant relationship between income and choice? Choice means choice of a product. So that's the simple research question in front of you. Probably, there are, this researcher is trying to explore the relationship between income and the choice of the product, but he's also considering other factors. So what he's saying is that given the gender, education, and age of the respondent, that means given the profile, socio-economic profile of the respondent, how his income is a deciding factor in determining the choice. That's the question that he's asking. So it's definitely a quantitative analysis he's going to do. So on this slide, any question? Or is it very clear to you that what the problem I'm presenting in front of you? Yeah, yes, no, anything?
Yes, sir. We got
Yeah,
it.
okay, great. Great. So this is, so yeah, okay, fine. So I'm moving on to second slide. So how do you proceed in the research? Then you make a questionnaire, because your research is based on secondary data analysis, primary data analysis. So, you're going to collect the information from the respondent. So this is the questionnaire this researcher has made. So I have simplified everything to make you just understand the concept. So I'm just doing the concept building, right? So he has made a question. So the first question he's asking is name of the respondent. Now, from the point of view of research, your number of variables that you're going to consider in your research must come from the questionnaire, and it should be reflected in the questions. This means that you're not going to ask any question which is redundant or which cannot be used or which will not be used in your research. Say, for example, it may be a redundant question to ask the name of the respondent, because he's not going to use it as a variable. But if you're doing a socioeconomic analysis of something, or if the person is from sociology and you'd like to know the impact of caste, impact of religion, then probably asking the full name is going to make some sense. But here in this study, it doesn't make any sense. So it's a redundant question, but he's asking this question because he would like to have the authenticity of the responses. Because one of way to ascertain the authenticity of the response is to have the name of the respondent, so that it makes it more authentic. And also the contact number if you have that. But it's very difficult. The more you go personal in collecting the data from the respondent, the less is the response rate. So it's going to affect your response rate. So as a researcher, you have to decide whether you would like to go for ascertaining more authenticity at the cost of response rate, or would you like to really, not ask the question like, what is your age, what is your name, or something like that. So second question, obviously, he's going to ask is the age of the respondent. Now, there are two ways to ask the age. You give the age bracket, and then ask the questions. And you say, okay, between this and this, between this and this, between this. Second way is to ask the straight away age. Now, what is your age? So somebody will say 35, somebody will say 52, something of this sort. So the nature of the variable that you are going to get will be different if you ask questions in two different ways. So if you're asking the age, like what is your age, is going to be a pure quantitative variable, right? So I'm going to talk in a while about this. And if you ask in a bracket, then it will not be a quantitative. It will be a quantitative variable, but it will be a kind of, categorical responses. So some of the tools that you're going to pick up for your analysis will depend upon what type of variable you have. So for example, if you ask the question age of the respondent, straight away, you can do regression, you can do correlation. But if you ask in the bracket of age, probably you'll have to think about how you're going to use it in regression and correlation, right? So choice of the tool is going to be affected by the way you ask the question or the way you collect the data. So I'll throw some more light on this aspect. This is a very critical aspect of research. Third, he's asking his gender. So, he's considering male, female, but these days, you also have to take transgender, because in the modern day research, the question of equity arises, the question of ethics arises, and therefore, you may like to keep the third option like transgender, something like that. But here, for the sake of simplicity, I have taken female, male, and they are coded. So female is 0, male is 1. Coding is important because you need to insert this data into SPSS format. So if you code the data, it actually gets treated in the analysis very well, and it helps you in further analysis. Occupation, here for the sake of simplicity, 3 occupations have been taken: agriculture 1 coded as 1, service coded as 2, business coded at 3. You can have, depending upon the need of your research, you can have more occupation. Income. Now here again, the question on the income will arise in 2 ways: whether you are asking income just as a straightaway question like what is your income rupees per month, so it becomes a straightaway quantitative data. Are you asking income? Most of us are asking, will go for asking income in the bracket group. So whether your income is between this and this, between this and this, between this and this. And the nature of these 2 variables are going to be very different. So I'm not taking up this question from the research philosophy point of view, but I'm taking this question from the research analysis point of view. So, from research analysis point of view, is going to be 2 different. So the kind of tool that you're going to pick up when you ask the income straight away will not be used or will not be applicable when you ask the income in a bracket, in different bracket from the respondent. So, you have to understand this as a researcher. From philosophy point of view, if you make it bracket, your response will increase. But if you ask straight away question, your response will go down, because people would either understate the income or overstate the income. So, this has been seen in many research. So anyway, so you have to be a little careful about when you are asking. Choice of the product. So this is the Likert. This is called the Likert scale, where you have the 1 to 5 scale, where 1 and 2 falls on the lower side, 3 is the neutral response, and 4 and 5 is the upper or on the higher side response. So here in this case, 1 represents I have no choice for the product at all. So I have little choice for the product, and I'm neutral towards the product. Is 3, I'm liking, not liking. Yes, it goes for me. I have good choice for the product. So I have clear preference. That means 5 means I have great choice for the product. So I'm a fan of this product, something of this sort. That's called the Likert scale. So there are many scales in research, which as a researcher we use. So this is one of the scale, which is very popular scale. And most of the researchers who have actually captured this kind of data have used the Likert scale. So, there are limitations of Likert scale. So we'll understand this limitation and what are the alternatives to Likert scale. That also is something that you should also think about. So are you going for the Gutman scale? Are you going to Thornston scale? It depends on the situation. It depends on what is the subject that you are dealing with? What is that you want to capture? So a lot of things will involve into it, but let's stick to Likert scale at the moment. So Likert scale is used here. So there are 6 variables that have. So now I'm going to the SPSS window. So this is the SPSS, typical SPSS window, we all know. And it has got 2 views. One is called the data view. If you can look at the bottom left, if you see the data view, and if I click the variable view, you will have a different kind of window in front of you. So this is the data view again, and this is again the variable view. So in data view, you have the variable in the columns, and then in the row you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are called the cases. So these are the cases representing each questionnaire that you have executed. So if you have executed, let's say 100 questionnaires, then you will have 100 cases in your case. And if you have 6 variables, then all these 6 variables will come in the column. So that's how this window is going to be. So first we'll have to define the variable. So this is how we enter the data. So first we define the variable. So name of the variable is asking name of the variable. So here the first variable was name of the respondent. So I will write, let's say, name of the respondent. So name of the respondent and the second variable. First I'll list the variable and then I'll go to the second column. So name, and second was age. So I'll write the name of the variable as age. The third was gender. So gender, I will write gender here. The fourth was income. So I'll write income here. So how you write the name of the variable is also something that is an art. Some people have developed that. So alphanumeric also can be used, but it has to be one single wording. It cannot be 2 different wording used as. So there are many things into it. So I'm not going to that detail. So name, age, gender, income, and after that, what was that? I know I'm just forgetting. Gender, occupation. So occupation, and then we have income. I have already done gender, income, and choice of the product. So we'll say choice. So these are the variables 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's why I said in the beginning that the questionnaire should be slim and it should be a smart. The slim and smart questionnaire is the one where all the questions that you have asked are converted into variable. And if a question is not converted into variable, this means the utility of this question is not there in your research. And it doesn't make any sense to put that in the question. So, we ask questions a lot, but before you ask the questions, you have to ascertain how you are going to use this response. So there are 2 things that is very valuable, important for the researcher. One, when you frame the question, you should pilot that question on yourself before you go out and pilot on somebody else. So you pilot that question on yourself. So this means you're asking yourself, if I have to respond to this question, what will come in my mind and how will I respond to it? So if that is very clear to you and it is fulfilling the need of your research, then go ahead and pilot it on others. So if this test is failed, And if you yourself is not very convinced of what kind of answer should I give, the question is not very clear. So you should reframe the question. So this is how you begin with. So let's come to the second column. So name. So when I click this name button, there is a small button come here, and it is numeric written over here. So name is definitely not a numeric variable. So if you don't change this, the type of the variable, then what will happen is that when you start entering the name in the data view, it will not take, because it's a numeric variable defined over here, while the name is not a numeric variable. So what you have to do is to click this small button, and this will give you a window. So the window has got all kinds of options over here. So here is an option called string. So any word that that is used as a variable is called the string variable. Alphanumeric is also called string variable. So you define it as a string variable. So when you define name as a string variable, you'll be able to enter the name over there, and it will also can be used for analysis. So even your if you want to understand the impact of caste, religion, or any other such factors which is not in numbers, can also be used for your analysis. And SPSS can facilitate that. Age is of course a numeric variable, because we have the way we have asked. But if the manner in which we have asked the age have changed, so we are asking in categories, different categories, then the entry will be somewhat different. It cannot be entered as a simple numeric variable. So we'll have some idea. If there are questions, I can answer that. Gender is interesting. So gender is male, female. It's a string, but we want to convert it into numeric. So because we have coded it, we have said 0, 1. So 0, 1 is numeric. So we'll keep it numeric because it has got a lot of advantages in the further analysis. Income is of course numeric. Occupation is again going to be numeric because I have coded it 1, 2, 3. So I'll leave it as numeric. Choice is also numeric 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are Likert scaled, but I'll keep it as numeric because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Next column is width. Width is something like width of the data. That means how many digits you want in your data, right? Something of this sort. So not of much consequence. Decimal, of course, decimal is like age. I don't want any decimal in my age, so I want to put age just like number, whole number. So gender, there is no decimal, but maybe sometimes you have the data like rainfall, where the decimals are very, very important. Maybe stock market decimals may be important. Maybe there are a lot of variables where the decimal matters. High frequency data will have decimals. So, but here in income and other things, I'm not keeping any decimals, so I'm just putting it 0. Right. So then comes the label. Label is your opportunity to expand upon the variable. So variable is a short name, but here the variables are very clear, and we understand that is age and other. But if there are complicated variable which you have actually constructed it in very small few letters, like INC represents income, but INC probably if somebody sees INC later, he may not be, or he may not be able to understand what this INC is all about. So your opportunity is to expand the variable. So here you can type out name of the respondent. Maybe something of this sort. You can, if you want, you can write over here. If you don't want, it's fine. Age of the respondent, maybe gender. So I'm just saving the time. I'm not writing the whole thing. The significance of writing more about the variable lies in the fact that you can see here. Let's say income in rupees per month. So I have defined the variable over here, so that income may be annual, it may be daily, it may be monthly. So I have defined it over here. So it's my opportunity. So this is how it benefits us. Occupation, something like that, and choice. something of this sort, right? Then we come to values. Values, name doesn't have any value, age doesn't have any value, gender has two values. One is 0, another is 1. So we'll have to click this small button over here, and it will give you another window, and then you can write the value 0, and what is the label that you have used for 0. So you will say, I have used it for female. So we'll say 0 is equal to female, and then we'll say 1 is equal to male. So these are the two values I have created. So we'll say okay. Now this package, statistical package, will read 0 as female and 1 as male. So anywhere you write it. Income, no value. Occupation, there are 3. So we'll say 1 value is agriculture. So we'll say okay, 1 is equal to agriculture. 2 was equal to, let's say, service. 3 was equal to business, let's say, so something of this sort. And likewise here, the choice. So when you go for choice, then you say, okay, not at all. So I'm not just saving the time. You can write the full sentence over here, right? As it has been constructed, but I'm just writing not at all. And then we'll say 2, somewhat, right? 3, neutral, means so-so. 4, very much. So in Likert scale, it's progression that we look at, and 1 being the least and the 5 being the most. Extremely. Right, I like it extremely well. So these are the 5 progressions that we have set here, and we'll say okay. So these are the things done over here. Now, interesting is missing variable. There's no need for missing variable over here, but just to give you an idea, as a researcher, you may like to understand the missing variable. So sometimes what happens is that in our research, some of the values are missing. So if it is data like sales, stock market, maybe income, any quantitative variable of this sort, if there is missing, then the best way is to either go for the average or the interpolate or extrapolate the data. So that's how you fill in the missing information. But there are many missing informations in our research which are of typical missing. For example, I'll give you an example to make you understand. So you have surveyed in a remote village, you're surveying in the remote village, and you're asking the age of the person. And this person doesn't know his age. So when you're asking age, he's saying, I don't know how old I am, but when this school was constructed, I was born. This is what my father said, right? So something of this sort. So this guy doesn't know his name, right? So that's one. Second, when you are asking this name to a young girl in the same village, the mother of the young girl, she becomes very upset, and she asks you, why are you asking the age of my daughter? You can expect this kind of response, right, as a researcher. So do you think that these two are missing informations, or there is information behind this missing information? Yeah. Your response? Do you see any information behind this missing information? Or do you really think that it's just a missing information? It's a case of just missing information.
No, it is not missing information.
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right. It's not a missing information. It's not just a case of missing information. There is something behind it, because you are, as a researcher, you would like to know how many mothers have actually not ready to tell or not ready to allow you to ask this question to his daughter, to her daughter, right? So is the case. I believe you another example. You're asking the question whether sex education should be compulsory in the school or not. You're asking this question. You're surveying this. So one parent gets very angry on you. How dare you talk about this subject to me? Another parent is very shy and he goes inside his house. He says, no, don't ask this question. I'm not going to answer this question to you, right? Now, these two are clearly an information, right? So such kind of informations can also be used as for the analysis, right? So it actually, let's say, for example, age. And if you see these two kind of responses which you want to put in your analysis, so you click this button, and then you'll say discrete missing values and put it some kind of, like 99 or maybe 99, 99. Let's start with 99. 99 is a code that you have given to a response. And 99 should also be a number, or there should be such number over here, which will not appear anywhere in your data. So probably you can make it 999, or if you think that even 999 can appear in your data somewhere, then you can make it 9999, something of this sort. So you have to make it little unique. So let's say we go for 99, and then we say, okay, so this is one information we have put in, and then we'll say, go to value again, click this button, and we'll say 99 is defined as got angry, right? This is what you received. This is the information you received, that the respondent got angry on asking the age of the young girl, right? So if you want to write full, you can also write got angry on asking age of young girl, right? So you have defined 99 as this, and then say, okay. So, this is one accommodation you have already done. Now, if you want to add another, so you can say, okay, so I want to add another, something of this sort, and you can keep on going, right? So you can accommodate 3 such responses, discrete responses in your missing site. So that's the beauty of missing. Now we come to the last column. This is a measure. The align and columns are not very important. You know it very well. So here, this one is very important measure. So it says nominal, ordinal, variable. So is name a nominal variable or an ordinal variable? So that is the decision that we have to take. Should I enter it as a nominal variable, or should I enter it as an ordinal variable?
Nominal.
Is name, yeah?
Nominal.
Nominal, very good. And why do you think it's a nominal?
Because it is just for the sake of name or indicating the particular thing, because you cannot put down in order.
Yeah. All right, good. So we'll also try and understand why it is called nominal in a while. But let's move on. Age. Now, age has got 3 categories: a scale, ordinal, nominal. So what do you think the scale age is? Scale, ordinal, or nominal?
Scale.
Scale. Who said a scale?
Chaya.
Okay, that's the right answer. But why do you think it's a scale?
Because it can take any number.
Can take any number. Okay, let's come to gender then. What do you think it is? A scale,
Nominal.
ordinal, nominal?
Nominal.
Huh?
Nominal.
Nominal. Okay. Very good. I mean, income.
Scale again.
Scale. Very good. Occupation.
Scale.
Nominal.
Ordinal.
Nominal.
Nominal.
So
Okay.
occupational.
Nominal.
Okay. Is there a difference of opinion on occupation?
No, it should be nominal.
It should be nominal. Okay. So all of us agree that is. Okay. Choice.
It is ordinal.
It is also nominal, I think.
Ordinal.
Nominal.
It is ordinal.
Okay. Anyone who's one who has said nominal should speak. Why it should be nominal?
So can we see what are the values which are mentioned there? Because I got
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I think choice should be ordinal.
Choice should be
Sir,
ordinal. Why
both the
should it
choice
be
and
ordinal?
occupation should be ordinal.
Why should it be ordinal?
Because
Sir,
there's an
because
order. One means,
this is a
highest or lowest, and five means once again. Is this a
Because
scale?
sir,
Hmm.
because in India we consider like agriculture as the primary thing. So
Hmm.
and
Oh, does
business.
it have something to do with Indian context? Ordinal or nominal? It has
Sir,
nothing to do with Indian
if we
context. It's universal.
if we measure data, I mean,
Hmm.
if we try to analyze the income with respect to occupation, so agriculture, as I mean, if we apply a sense that agriculture brings lesser revenue in compared to business,
Hmm.
in that case, we
Okay.
can rank the hierarchy of the occupation.
Let's put that at the back seat for a while, because that's not the debate in statistics, because there is nothing called defining the type of variable based on the country context, right? So anyway, so let's talk about it. This is the thing in front of you. So
Yeah.
gender, so female and male, right? Female is coded here as 0, male is coded as 1. So if I ask you the question, is 1 greater than 0 numerically, what will be your answer?
No, sir.
Numerically,
No.
no, sir, one is greater than 0. But in that particular case, you cannot compare it.
Sir, here we are not saying ki, 1 is greater than 0. The numbers are only representing certain variable.
Very good.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Numbers are only
Right answer.
representing certain variables. Nobody is greater than. We are not comparing the numbers. We are denominating. We are using the number to denominate certain variable.
A particular aspect. The
Yes.
particular aspect, right?
Or the
So
particular choice or the particular response.
yeah, one characteristics or
Yes, sir.
attribute or aspect. So fine.
Yes, sir.
So that's the way to look at the nominal variable.
Yes.
So if the answer to this question is 1 greater than 0, the answer is no. You have a
Here it
nominal
is.
variable in front of you.
Exact. It is only for
So,
for the name's sake, like we are representing certain thing.
yeah, exactly. So is the case of occupation. So
Yes.
if I ask the question same, is 2 greater than 1 or 3 greater than 2? Answer is no.
No.
These are the 3 different
Class.
occupation.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Now come to let's say come to age, right? Let's come to age. When I asked the first person what was your age, he said 45. When I asked the second person what is your age, he said 55. Now I'm asking you the question: is 55 greater than 45?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Sir.
Answer is
Yes.
Answer is yes. Now coming back to this choice factor, right? So if I'm asking the question here, you just see this one. I was asking, is 2 greater than 1?
No.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
No.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Because
Sir, it is
as I have
ordinal,
What is
already
your
sir.
said,
answer? Yes or
we are
no?
only representing the answers via number, just to
Yeah.
facilitate the analysis.
Okay,
Sir, we
but
can measure the kind of choice through the numbers. So when
yeah.
measuring comes into factor, then it should be ordinal, sir.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. If 2 is 2 greater than 1, yes, it is
Yes.
greater.
Yes. Because
Is 3 greater
this is
than
ordinal.
2? Yeah, let's not come down to ordinal so quickly. We'll come down to ordinal later. First, let's answer. Go step by step. So is 2 greater than 1? Yes. Is 3 greater than 2? Yes. Is 4 greater than 3? Yes. Is 5 greater than 4? Yes. So this is in order. This is in order, right? So 5 represents the maximum, then 4, then 3, then 1, right? Is this clear? Now,
Yes.
second question. I'm asking the second question here. Come back to age. Is 55 greater than 45? Yes. Now I'm asking you another question. So if 55 is greater than 45, by how much do you think 55 is greater than 45?
10.
By 10. Yeah. So here I'm asking the same question. If 2 is greater than 1, then by how much?
We cannot say.
Can you answer this question? By how much?
So we cannot
say
say.
We cannot say. Very good. So, all we know is that 2 is greater than 1, but what we don't know is by how much. Here, we know that 55 is greater than 45, and we also know by how much, right? So, if these two are clear to us, it's called the quantitative or scale variable, but this is not a scale variable or quantitative variable because we don't know the difference between the two, but all we know is that one is greater than the other, right? It's just like, looking at the two peaks of the mountain. And from a distance, if you can see the two peaks, you will be able to make out that, yes, this peak is greater than this peak. And that's a valid response. But if the question is asked, by how much this peak is greater than another peak, you don't know that, right? And this is also one of the limitation of capturing data through Likert scale, because the Likert scale assumes that the difference between the difference between 2 and 1 is the same as the difference between 3 and 2, is the same as the difference between 4 and 3, is the same as the difference between 5 and 4, right? Which is absolutely not correct, right? Because the one who perceives products is very individual choice. So the way you perceive is different from the other perceives. So my yardstick of great product and your yardstick of great product will be different, right? So even if the product is very good, I will reject because, my standards are very high of measuring it. So we don't know the difference between the two. This is one of the biggest limitation of the Likert scale. And that's why it is said that the distribution of responses across Likert scale that you use must be first tested for its consistency and its distribution. So you do one-way ANOVA and test it and run the Fisher test. So unless you get the Fisher test done, you should not proceed because it may be a biased distribution. Let's say you have interviewed 100 people, and out of 100 people, 20 has said no choice, 30 has said, I have little choice, 10 has said neutral, another, this is the kind of distribution you get. So what is the chances of this distribution be affected by the biases? And maybe the respondent not very sure about what they're saying. So sometimes, we are not very sure about whether should I say the product is good or whether should I say that the product is great. I'm not very sure about that. So I'll mark something of this sort, right? So, this may not capture the right. So when you have this kind of data is called the ordinal scale data, ordinal data. And the age and the income data. So the first person you asked is said, my income is 40,000 per month. Another person is said, my income is 50,000 per month. It's a scale data because 50,000 is greater than 40,000 and is by 10,000, right? We know that. So these are the types of variables that we have. Is that clear to all of you?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Question? Yeah. Okay. Now, choice of the tool that you select, whether you're going to run regression, correlation, multiple regression, or maybe you're going to choose something else, multivariate analysis, will depend upon what type of data you have. So I'm just asking you one single question to make you understand this, what I'm saying. If I have to know the relationship between age and the choice, and the data is in front of me by 100 respondents have said, and I have the data with me. If I have to establish the relationship between age and the choice, can I use correlation?
No, sir.
No. Why we cannot use correlation?
Because choice is not a numeric variable.
Choice is not a numeric variable. Correlation can be established between the two scale variable. And if both the variables X and Y are not a scale, you cannot use correlation, right? And further to understand this, the scale variable, whenever you're using in the research, presupposes that the distribution is normal. And if it works on the assumption of normal distribution or normality of distribution of data in order to get the best result. And the choice variable, which is an ordinal variable, cannot presupposes normal distribution because the nature of the variable is such, right? So what is that we are going to do if I have to establish the relationship between age and choice? I'll go for ANOVA. I'll go for, association.
Chi-square.
I'll go for the association, right? Instead of correlation, right? So something of this sort. So it's very important that you know which tool can be used where, right? So now let's come back again to this one. So we go now to data view. And you see all the variables are already listed over there. So if your first name is, let's say, Nidhi, and the age Nidhi said was 35, gender is, let's say, 0, income is 40,000, occupation, let's say 2, and the choice is, let's say, 4. So, and second is Ajay. I'm not going to go very far, but I'll just take 2 for you to understand. 32, gender 1, 28,000, occupation 3, and the choice, let's say 2, something of this sort. So this is how you're going to. So how you're going to enter the data? You're going to pick up one questionnaire, right? And start looking at the responses of each question that the respondent has given, and start entering over here, right? So this is how you should enter the data. And if you go to, let's say, this button and then click it, you will see that all the informations are in front of you, which is very much readable, and it makes a lot of sense. For example, you say, my first respondent is Niti. She is 35 years of age. She is a female, and her income is 40,000. She is into service, and she likes the product very much. My second respondent is Ajay. His age is 32. He's a male. His income is 28,000. He's into business, and he likes the product somewhat, right? And if you click it again, it will go back to its. And if you keep your cursor on the variable, you will see the description will appear over there, whatever description you have written about them. Gender, income in rupees per month is what I have entered over there. So this will appear over there. So if you just keep the cursor, it will give you that. So far, so good. Have you understood everything here? Before I proceed further in regression now?
Yes, sir.
This is to give you a glimpse of, data type, and also to how you can enter data into SPSS if you are collecting through primary data. Now, secondary data can also be imported into the SPSS format. So I have the data kept at in one file. So what I'm going is that I'm going into the file, I'm going into open the data, and I'm going into open data. So I'm asking the computer to open my data. So I'm going to document, try and find out my data. Where is that? So my data is at desktop somewhere, IPSA Indore. I'll say open. So there is a file called SPSS data. So I'm opening this data. I have lots of data over here, but I'm going to use one particular data, let's say policing time regression. So I'm going to use this data. So I'm going to say open policing time regression from my file. And here is the data in front of you. So it doesn't take much time for SPSS to import the data. So this whole data is in front of you. So this data is about different kind of, glassware manufactured by the company: bowl, casserole, dish, tray, plate, and these are the types of the product. And this is the diameter of the product, so how big or the small the products are. And this is the time, policing time. So if of a certain diameter, like 10.7 diameter, will take 47 minutes to polish. And then what is the price at which this is sold? So here, the problem that I'm taking for discussion is I'm going to run a regression on this data, and the regression is going to be about the fact that this manufacturing company would like to know the would try to schedule the timing. So his problem is that he would like to know how much policing workers he should employ, and what is the average time that he should look at. So the regression I'm going to look at is that is time depends on diameter, and if it is, then to what extent diameter actually explains time. So that's the problem in hand. So I'm going to go back again to the PPT, and here is the equation in front of you. So when we are talking about linear regression, so we have the dependent variable, which is called the y. So, and then you have the intercept, which is known as, beta is variably described as, you can write a, you can write in some other way also it has been written. So it is beta 0, and the cap on the beta is actually read as beta estimated. So whenever you put the cap or the line above a variable, that means estimated. So there are two kinds of variables that we talk about always. One is the population, and other is sample. So what we are actually working on is a sample, not the population, right? And therefore, any parameter that you measure through sample will be estimated value, right? It will be called estimated value. That's why beta 0 estimated plus beta 1 estimated xi. So it's called the mathematical equation. So when we write y is equal to, in general terms, and y is equal to a plus bx, or y is equal to beta 0 plus beta 1 x, when we write this equation, it's called the mathematical equation. So mathematical equations are the exact formulations. They are not inexact formulation. So what is the difference between exact formulation and inexact formulation? Exact formulations are that it says that the y actually depends on x and x alone. There is no other factors affecting y. So in this equation, you can see the first equation, mathematical equation, there is nothing other than x which appears in this equation. So this means any change in x, which is independent variable, will cause a change in y. And 100% change in y that we can visualize is the result of change in x, nothing else. Right? So that's called the exact relationship. But in statistics, we do not actually measure mathematical equation. What we measure is called a statistical model or a statistical equation, which is inexact in nature. So in the second equation, you can see y is equal to beta 0 plus beta 1 x plus e. E is called the error term. So we add the error term over here, or it's also called the residual, right? It's also called residual or error. And when you add this, it becomes a statistical model. So what it says, this equation says, is that any change in x is affecting the change in y, or is causing the change in y. But when given e, that, a set of factors which we are not aware of, we don't know what is affecting. So it might be affected, y is also affected by other factors than x, which we are not so much aware about. So when you formulate this kind of model with so many variables, the beauty lies in how you do the literature survey. So if you do a good literature survey, and if you know the subject very well, and the researches that has been done on this subject very well, so this will help you in formulating the right kind of model, because you will be able to select the right kind of variables to be there on the right hand side of your equation, right? So better, that's called the problem formulation, or it's called the specification of the model. So the more accurate you become in your specification of variable, the lesser the chances that your dependent variable will be affected by random factors, which you don't know, because most of the factors which is going to affect y, you are aware of, right? So that's the beauty of formulating a good model. A good model can be formulated with the variables which will capture the maximum change in y, right? And the least of the changes. But suppose, more explanation of change in y comes from e, and less explanation comes from x. What does this mean? This means that you have a specification error in your model. your specification is not right. This means as a researcher, you have failed to capture the right kind of variable. And most of it, the explanation of the dependent variable is coming from error, is not a good model, right? So there is a question, something called the model fit. So this aspect will come when we start talking about model fit. And here the causation that we are talking about is that the y depends on x. So y is a function of x. The causation works in one single direction. It doesn't work in both directions, right? This is one of the common mistakes that, as a researcher we do. So there is a difference between cause and effect and the correlation. The cause and effect is it works in one direction. It doesn't work in both directions. And correlation can be viewed as a two-way relationship, right? But in regression, it works in one single way. For example, if y depends on x, it is not to say that the x depends on y. You cannot say that the x depends on y unless specifically formulated, right? So cause and effect is working in one single direction. So give you an example. So it's a famous example which is given in Croxton and Cowden's book on statistics. It's a very famous textbook that we used to study, but I don't know whether we are using it now or not, but very less used. But when we were the student, we used this Croxton and Cowden. He gave an example in correlation. He said, so in the rainy days, when the summer and the rainy days, when this rain happens, the sound of cricket actually in the evening goes very high pitch, at very high pitch. So he collected the data of the sound of the cricket and the atmospheric pressure. And he found that as the atmospheric pressure goes on, the sound of the cricket also goes on. That's what he said. He found, given the data. So he said, look at this data. We can say that as the atmospheric pressure goes on, we find that the sound of the cricket also goes on. This also means that as the sound of the cricket goes on, the atmospheric pressure goes on. He said, no, we cannot say this. But the data says that, right? Data says that. The data says that, when the sound of the cricket goes on, the atmospheric pressure goes on. The data says that. But he said, no, we cannot say that because there is a difference between correlation and regression. It's not causation we are talking about. It's just the association we are talking about, right? So in association, and the causation are very different. The regression is based on causation, and causation works in one single way. Any question on this slide? All right. Now we go to this next slide, right? So you have the explanation for the two parameters.
I have a question there. Yeah, generally what happens when we see research papers, so the model generally is not expressed. I have, seen the model being expressed by way of a mathematical equation only. So is it that both the things go in research papers? Because essentially there are papers like which have used econometric tools, their equations are, more expressly, mentioned there. But in most of the research papers, what we find is only mathematical.
So good. So if you are asking me this question personally, I will say that if I'm the editor, I would like to see the model specification or model description in the paper. But there will be many people who assume that, well, the estimated model has been presented. This means the author knows what the model is, and say the paucity of space, things like that. So maybe there are many considerations on which this kind of decision will depend on. It's a decision of the editor, purely. But from the researcher point of view, my suggestion would be that whenever you send the paper, you must specify the model which you have used, right, and the logic behind it.
Because this has happened with me, because in one or two research papers they didn't ask for the model, but probably in one of the reviews I got it.
Yeah, you're right. As I said, it's purely a decision of the editorial board, and there are many considerations that will go into it. But if you ask my answer or my response, I will say as a researcher, you should specify. If editor says cut it down, no problem. Anyway, let's move on. So beta zero actually represents the minimum value of, before we go to beta 0 and beta 1 explaining, can you answer this question? I said that this beta 0 and beta 1 are the parameters. So what is the difference between parameter and what? Parameter and I'm missing it out. Parameter and probably
Statistics.
statistic. No, it's not called statistics. It's called a statistic. Right. So what is the difference between a statistic and parameter?
Parameter is for population and is statistic for sample.
Fantastic. 3 cheers for you. Very good. I never expected that this answer will come so quickly. Very good. So fantastic. I love that. Anyway, so beta 0 is the minimum value of y when x is tending to 0. And it's also called the intercept of the equation. And beta 1 is the rate at which y will increase when x increases by a given unit, is also called the slope of the line, right? And slope, when you talk about the slope and the intercept, these are the 3 formulations I would like you to look at. One is the positive slope, another is the negative slope, and in the third graph, there is no slope, right? So slope is 0. So something of this sort. So it depends on, and these are all linear lines. These are not non-linear lines, right? So these are all linear lines will always be a straight line. All right, so I'm now going to go back to SPSS. So here is the data. So I'm going to analyze. We'll go to regression. We'll go to the linear regression we are estimating. So we go to linear, and this window appears and it asks us to define the variable. So what is your dependent variable? So any of you, what is our dependent variable here?
Price.
Time, because we want to establish the relationship between time and diameter. So time is our dependent variable because we want to know what is the average time that is going to take in policing, which depends on diameter. So time is dependent, diameter is independent. So here are buttons, is called statistics. By default, they will take the minimum like model fit, estimate, and things like that. So we don't have to do much over here. So we'll say continue, plot. If you want to see the normality of the distribution of data, we'll talk about that in a while. So I'm not going to that. Save. So what I'm doing is that this is the residual analysis. Residual analysis I'll do after we finish discussing the basics of regression. So I'm not going to into anywhere. So it has already taken by default things which I want. So the moment I click, this is what I get. So I get the model summary, I get ANOVA, then I get the coefficients. So let's talk about it one by one. So this is just a description of, the variables that has been entered. Let's come to model summary. The model summary, we have the value of R. R is a simple correlation between the two. And this R square is when the R is multiplied by R, right? So correlation squared is 0.49. And this is called adjusted R square. So I would like to ask you a question here. Would you use R square for your analysis, or do you use adjusted R square for your analysis?
Adjusted R square.
This time you are wrong. I'm sorry.
It's R square.
It's R square. So why are we going to use R square, not adjusted R square? So what is R square, by the way?
To see the variation.
Sir, degree.
Variation.
How much my dependent variable is explained by independent variable?
Fantastic. You use the right terminology. How much is my dependent variable explained by my independent variable? Because the independent variable is being explained by two things. One, the variable that I have taken, and another other variable which I don't know, which has been clubbed under error, right? So my dependent variable is explained by two things. So I would be interested in knowing how much the dependent variable is being explained by my variable which I have kept in the model, right? So that part is called, is captured by R square. So if 0.49 is the R square, what is the interpretation? The interpretation is that 49% of changes in dependent variable is being explained by the independent variable which I have considered in my model. So 0.49 means 49%. So let me go back to this slide. Can you see this? So what I have done here is that I have actually divided this equation into three parts. So the total change in Y that will be captured by the statistical formulation is called total sum of a square, the TSS. The entire value of TSS will give us how much is going to be the total change or total variations that will come under in Y, right? So that's called, it's called the TSS. And this whole regression part, that is beta 0 plus beta 1 plus x has been considered as one part, is called the regression sum of a square. So it's going to be captured by, in the ANOVA table, you will see that it is going to be captured by regression sum of a square, right? And then the error part is the third part, which is called the error sum of a square, ESS. So error sum of a square. So this means that if you add RSS and ESS, it will be equal to TSS. So the total change or 100% change in Y is split into two segments, one which is coming from regression and another which is coming from error, right? So R square is saying that this part, RSS, is about 49%. That's what the R square is telling us, right? So that means the ESS is 51%. So how it has been derived? So you look at TSS is equal to, formulation we can write is TSS is equal to RSS plus ESS. And if you divide both sides by TSS, then TSS divided by TSS, RSS divided by TSS, and ESS divided by TSS. So on both sides, I have divided by TSS. So this means TSS, by TSS is 1. And this RSS by TSS is called R square, right? And ESS by TSS is called 1 minus R square. In technical terminology which is used in econometrics, R square is known as coefficient of determination. And 1 minus R square is called coefficient of non-determination. So coefficient of determination means that what is the percentage of variations in Y, that is dependent variable, is being explained by the regression, right? And coefficient of non-determination tells us that what is the percentage not explained by regression, explained by something which we are not aware of, right? So here I have also given you the calculation. So let's go back to, in order to understand the calculation, let's go back to first the table, right? So if you go to the ANOVA table, the next table I'm talking about, ANOVA table. So you can see here, sum of a square, SS, regression sum of a square. The regression sum of a square is 10287. You can see that figure. And then the residual sum of a square, that is the error sum of a square, is 10687. You can also see that. And the total sum of a square, that is TSS, is 20974. You can see this figure, right? Now I can take you to this table again. So you can see RSS. RSS is regression sum of a square, right? Divided by the total sum of a square, right? Plus the error sum of a square divided by the total sum of a square. So if you divide these two, 422.252 divided by 860, you will get 0.49 exactly. So that's how the R square is calculated, right? Clear?
Yes, clear, sir.
Okay. So if you look at here, next column is degree of freedom, right? So here degree of freedom is 1 for the regression, and here the residual it is 57. So what are these degree of freedom? Why do we have to have degree of freedom in ANOVA table? And what does it mean actually, degree of freedom? Anyone? All right. So what happens is that
sample size minus 1.
Oh,
So we take sample size minus 1.
Sample size minus 1. Yeah, okay. That is for the total degree of freedom. Yeah. And where from this 1 has come?
So one coefficient that we are using.
Yeah. Okay. There are two variables.
Sir, actually,
independent,
we have
minus 1.
estimated the particular value. For example, if we estimate the single element x bar, then we lose 1 degree of freedom. Then our freedom is n minus 1, because we can't select n number of observation, because there is a restriction that we have to calculate the resulting figure of x bar from our observation should be the estimated figure.
Okay, good.
Equal to
that's, we all know that, you know, I mean, I appreciate that you know the formula, how this has been derived. My question is very fundamental. What is the significance of degree of freedom? Why do we have to have degree of freedom? What is the meaning of degree? Let's ask the simple question. What is the meaning of degree?
To make the estimated value unbiased. To make it unbiased.
Estimated value unbiased. Good. Yeah. So, you know, let's understand from this point of view. Yeah.
So let
is there
me
some more you know, response?
Sir, yeah, sir, because we have one variable in this, and because we lost that particular opportunity to find out the error values, residual values, we have n minus 1 further values to find out the error values or residual values.
Okay, so let me, without wasting much time,
Sir,
because, you know,
let me give an example. Suppose you have cricket player of 11. So let's be setting the fielding of 10 players. The remaining last one, we don't have choice to set that. So we lose the freedom that.
Understood. Thank you. So what I understand is that you all know what is the concept of degree of freedom, how it is calculated. You know it very well. But my fundamental question is that, what is the meaning of degree of freedom? Why do we have to have degree of freedom over there? So that's the question, the larger question. So let me make you understand this, you know, in this way. You're dealing with, when you're running regression, you're dealing with scale variable, the quantitative variable, and you're dealing with a sample, right? You're dealing with a sample, and this sample has been derived from the larger population. So you want to see that this sample is representative. You see that the sample distribution across the population parameter is normal. So normality of distribution is one conditions which will give us a better estimation. That's what we are trying to see. Now, the normality chance for normal distribution of the data is get lost if more variables are added. If more variables are added into it. Say, for example, if you have to distribute, let's say, 5,000 rupees among the five people, it's easier to distribute and make it equal distribution or normal distribution. But if somebody says that, okay, the standard deviation after distributing, the standard deviation should be this. Now your distribution becomes very difficult, right? Because you have been given one qualifier. Then you have been given another qualifier. Then you'll say, okay, the average should be like this. Or there is another parameter that has been added into it before you distribute. So that means the more parameter is added to you, the difficult it becomes to achieve normal distribution, right? So degree of freedom is actually a compensation given to you for your ability to achieve the normal distribution, right? So degree of freedom plays a very important role. It's a statistical compensation given to you for enabling you to achieve normal distribution. And that's why if somebody said that the degree of freedom is to create an unbiased estimate is right, because this is how it creates unbiased estimate, because it increases your ability to achieve the normal distribution. Anyway, so when you go to the mean square, you see the figure 10287 over here, right? 10287. So 10287 is achieved after dividing this sum of a square, that is 10287 divided by 1 is 10287.173. So this is how it has been calculated over there. 10687.511 divided by 57 is 187.500. So that's how the mean square has been calculated. So the sum of a square divided by the degree of freedom is mean square. And then if you come to the F statistics 54.86, how it is calculated? 10287.173 divided by 187.500 will give you 54.865. So that's how F is calculated. Now this F is called the test statistic, right? Not statistics. So test statistic means that it's an evidence for something, right? So what is the hypothesis? What for the F test is calculated is done? Any of you? What is the meaning of F test? Why do you do F test here? So F test is done to test the hypothesis whether the model is at all usable or not. The model that you have created is at all usable or not. In other words, the F test actually tests the hypothesis whether at least one of the variable used in the model is significant. Say, for example, you're using 10 variables. And if all 10 variables turns out to be insignificant, this means a model is not usable. In that case, your F test will not be significant, right? Your F test will come significant only when at least one of the variable is usable and it turns out to be significant, right? So that's the test. This means F test is an indicator of whether your model is usable or model is not usable, right? So here the model is usable because F test is significant. The value of P, this is value of P, is called the probability value. The probability value is 0.001, that 000. This means is far more less than, is almost negligible, right? P value is almost negligible. And this helps us in hypothesis testing. I'll come back to the hypothesis testing in a while and discuss a little more on P value. So be ready with the question I'm going to ask you about P value, maybe after some time. So let's come back to the coefficient. And the coefficient here, we have the constant unstandardized coefficient. So unstandardized beta is constant for the constant is minus 1.955, and for diameter, that is beta 1, the value is 3.457. And these are the standard error, but we also have a standardized coefficient over here for the beta. And you can see that the beta 1, that is for coefficient for the diameter, under standardized coefficient is written 0.700. So here, question to you. Should we use standardized coefficient, standardized beta, or should we use unstandardized beta? And why? That's one question. Another is you have the t value, and then there is a corresponding t test. Now, what is this t test is all about, right? So these are some of the questions we are going to confront. It's 11:30. We're taking a break. And when you come back, be ready with these questions, right?
Thank you so much, sir.
I'm just putting off my video, and I'll come back. What is the duration of
Yes,
how much is that?
sir, we are going, yes, we are taking a break for half an hour. So we will resume by 12 noon. Or
half an hour?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, ठीक है.
Or we can adjust like as per your convenience also, so.
No, you ask the participants, because I would like to spend more time with them, because there's a lot to talk about, right? So if they want to come back after 15 minutes, I'm fine. 15 minutes is okay with me.
Yes, sir.
But
Sure,
if they want to
sure,
go for half an hour, it's okay.
Sure, sir. I guess we can take a break for 15 minutes, and participants, we are going to resume back at 11:45 sharp.
Is that agreeable?
Sure,
participants, are you agreed?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
Sure.
Okay, all right. So I'm just switching off my video. I'm not logging out. So I'll be back after 15 minutes.
Okay, sure, sir. Sure, sir. He's away.